US missile interceptor in Jordan and UAE has now taken a hit from Iran. According to information, they said the THAAD air defense system that was there was completely destroyed. And according to satellite image that they produced to back up their information, what they are saying right now is that the key stockpile of the interceptor missiles that are being stored in Jordan and the UAE have currently been obliterated. That is what the US is trying to tell the UAE and Jordan right now. So the US is telling Jordan overtly through their mainstream media that is supposed to project the interest of the deep state. They are telling Jordan now that we can no longer protect you. So that is how to speak. That is how deep states, project their interests through their mainstream media. So when CNN, who is supposed to paint America in a good light, is now telling the public that, their interceptor missile stockpile in Jordan and UAE has been hit by Iran, and they are posting a satellite image, which we all have beforehand. China has also posted the same thing. Thank you so much, family, for coming. And they're putting it out there. The US is simply telling Jordan and UAE, we don't want to hear you say that we prioritize Israel anymore. Everything we have for you, can you hear that information? They said the interceptors were hit inside Jordan and UAE. So that's the US telling Jordan and UAE, like, man, with the intensity and the calculus of this conflict, and, they don't even know if it's going to be a protracted conflict, right? So the US is already telling the Jordan and the UAE that, well, you might be on your own now. And it's not personal, no hard feeling. This is the US telling the Gulf states, we will no longer be able to protect you anymore. So what I think, the best air defense that I think the UAE and Jordan can use right now is to find a way to communicate with the Iranian foreign ministry and let them know that US will no longer operate from within their airspace anymore. That is the only air defense right now. Anything outside that, everywhere is now going to go crazy. That is what it means now. The whole priority now is now Israel. That is the number one thing that US is trying to say through CNN, that, look, you are no longer the priority. The second thing that US is trying to tell Jordan and UAE right now, that they are not saying, but they are saying, everybody is saying that the US interceptor stockpile is coming down. So this is the US trying to somehow tell the public, we are getting down on interceptors. But according to them, they say they have unlimited stockpiles, right? We want to see those unlimited stockpiles. So this is the US telling Jordan and the UAE, it's over with. Whatever stockpile they have left will currently go to Israel. So this is to tell you that the longer this war goes, apart from the fact that it's going to economically affect the world, right? Qatar has now warned everybody now that the oil price might even go to $150 per barrel very soon. And they said even if the war ends in a week or 2 weeks' time, it will take them likely more than a month or more before they can start functioning properly again. People have suffered in this war. And I think if care is not taken, they will continue to suffer. The reason is because Iran sees these states as, traitor states now. So, and according to Abbas Araghchi, that a lot of people, you heard what he said yesterday, that Iran is prepared for every possibility. Iran is not taking out any option. They are not taking it out of the table. That is what even makes this war a more dangerous war. So the information that just came in through Brick News, which is a mainstream platform for, information, they are saying that Iran said they are reaching the final phase of their old stockpile. Now, according to the information we are now getting from the Iranian IRGC now, right? They said missiles have now been launched towards Israel. Qaram Shah 4, Khyber missile, Fatah 2, Fatah 1 missile have now been launched towards Israel. I don't know if the Qaram Shah 4 is an hypersonic, but I can tell you categorically that the Fatah 2 and Fatah 1, those are hypersonic ballistic missiles. Now, they launched it together with some drones, some, new variant of Shahed drones. Now, according to information, there is only one air defense system that was created specifically to intercept whatever is moving at Mach 20, which is 7 kilometers per second. And that is the Russian S-500 Prometheus, having a range of 500 to 600 kilometers. So that is the only capability that we know of from tests that can actually intercept this right now. The entire Western Bloc currently don't have an hypersonic missile. They don't have. They don't. There is no Western country that currently have an hypersonic missile. They don't have. The US is talking about developing the Dark Eagle. And the Dark Eagle is supposed to be a counter capability towards the Russian, Rosby-Edge. You are talking about the Oreshnik. So the Dark Eagle is supposed to be the counter capability that deters Russia Oreshnik, strategic capability. But the US have not been able to develop the Dark Eagle. We heard about 3 weeks back that the US is trying to test the Dark Eagle. So we did not get any information about the Dark Eagle after that time. We don't know if the test was successful or not. Now, if it's successful, they now have to, first of all, fire some, some tests. They have to practice with it. And after practicing with it, before the serial produce, they have to fire it from an operational standpoint where they kind of know, okay, this is the capability. This is the destruction capability of this particular Dark Eagle that they're talking about. And the Dark Eagle is supposed to be a low-flying, capability. And it's supposed to be hypersonic that cannot probably be intercepted by even the S-500 Prometheus. These are hypotheses. But from what we know, that is a fact, the US have not been able to provide, to do anything about the Dark Eagle. If you follow the works of someone like this United Nations weapon inspector, I think Scott Ritter or something, he has once upon a time talked about the Dark Eagle. But what we do know about the Dark Eagle right now is that the US don't even have any operationally, functional Dark Eagle right now. They've not serially mass produced it. But we'll see the development, how things continue to develop as the conflicts, keep going on. Now, the United Kingdom Deputy Prime Minister, David Lammy, assures that they will do everything to protect their base in Cyprus because Cyprus is part of NATO, according to David Lammy. He said Cyprus is part of NATO. But ladies and gentlemen, Cyprus is not part of NATO. They don't even know what they are talking about. Cyprus is not a NATO state. Yeah, there's a possibility that there are some NATO state capability within Cyprus. The UK-based Diego Garcia in Cyprus is a NATO capability. The United touching a United Kingdom, base is like touching NATO. But if you've touched the United States military base around the Persian Gulf, you've touched the highest level of NATO. So if they want to activate any, any forbidden article that they've written somewhere, they can activate it already, because what we are saying is that the best of NATO, the best legs of NATO is already in this conflict. And nothing has dramatically changed. That is why you discover that the NBC correspondent was asking Abbas Arakchi yesterday that is Russia and China actively involved in this conflict? And he said they are diplomatically involved, they are not actively involved, and through every other means like that. So that is the information we have. Now, what I think is this: the United Kingdom cannot defend Cyprus. How? The United Kingdom is destroying a cruise missile, right? Let me call it a cruise missile, because when you use a jet engine, not a propeller, when you use a jet-powered engine to propel the Shahid, the new generation of Shahid that flies faster than the old generation, then you don't call it, it's no longer a drone. Now it's now a cruise missile. So if something that is what about $10,000 to $30,000, you are shooting a capability of like $1 million or more to destroy it, then you cannot last long. So this only means that the United Kingdom does not have the capability to protect Cyprus, because how many of those you know counter capability would you shoot before you get tired? Iran can haul more than 800 of those missiles at Cyprus at once. And you cannot underestimate the destructive capability of those drones, because these drones, some of them are carrying 200 kilogram payload. From research is 200 kilograms. Some of the ones that the earlier generation, the first test one that they were using was carrying 100, but the recent operational ones are 200 kilograms. So that's like 4 bags of cement of explosives. So when you draw, you can see the destructive capability of these drones. We've seen it already. Buildings are going down from these drones alone. And we can see that these drones have actually functioned exceptionally in destroying most of the United States heli warning system, and their multiple multi-layered radar system that they have around the Persian Gulf. Now the problem is the fact that the United States now is blind in the Persian Gulf, the fact that the United States bases have been hit to the point where they cannot take off. They cannot just take off from those bases again, because there is a constant surveillance of those bases, right? Now, where are we going to? I think the United States is now surprised that how is a common Iran, how are they so vast based on their intelligence to the point that they are able to locate even our personnel? Where is that intelligence coming from? The CIA operatives that had their office in the embassy, I think in UAE, they got hit too. So according to the information we are having now, Washington Post reports, that's another mainstream media of the United States, Russia is providing intelligence information to Iran on US ships, aircraft location, and personnel in the Persian Gulf. I really think they are wrong. I think they are wrong. But they might be right too. I think the guys we are looking at personally, everybody is focusing on China. Now, the billion-dollar question is, what if Russia too is involved when it comes to satellites, targeting and every other thing like that? What if Russia is equally involved in picking out those targets? And when you look at the Russian intelligence assets, right? Is very, very deep. Is very, 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 very deep. Russia, the way they breed their assets is so different and is extremely dangerous. I think the Russian, intelligence assets are they are just like the CIA. After the fall of the Soviet Union, everybody think that they are now gone, but I think they are still around. just that they are so covert to the point that you might never even believe that they are the ones. And they are Russia activates those assets very, very quickly. So you never can tell. So, but I think everything right now is becoming a very big surprise for the US. Like, how is Iran doing it? Now, I have materials for you. You know, we can't just do this without having materials. Um, we can't do this without having materials to show so that we can back up our discourse right now. So we have a situation that is that is fast developing from the Persian Gulf. We have tension is escalating very quick, and for me, based on what we are seeing right now, you know, um, uh, the Iranians are now towing a down Israeli Aeron TP drone shot down by Iranian air defenses in Lorestan. So this is the drone, the Lauren drone. So when you look at that drone that was just shot down, I think the drone still has the parts. Some of the parts are still very okay. So we have a situation where these drones could be reverse engineered. They could be operationally, they could be operationally put to use before the end of this war. We can have Iran now making their version. This is how technologies are being stolen, because according to the West, they say the Iranians are stealing their technology. Nobody has ever stolen anybody's technology. Okay, either people pay for your technology to get the rights to use your technology, and they try to reconfigure and change it to their own version, like the Shahid to the Russian Geran, or you use that capability against them in an aggressive way. They drop it, carefully bringing it down by jamming it, because there are always connections that some of these capabilities have with satellites. Like this Shahid drone right now, there are little ships that are being placed on every Shahid. Sometimes there are multiple of them. Now, what these capabilities are used for is to connect these drones with a satellite and give whoever is operating the drone from the command control center, they give them the opportunity to maneuver the drone mid-flight. So making that drone a completely dangerous drone. What am I talking about? I'm like to show you what the Shahid drone looks like, and I want to show you this particular capability that have been incorporated into it. So the Shahid goes from just an ordinary drone into a very destructive capability, and I think these things should it should be present to it should be present on the Russian Geran drones too. So, but I hope I can find a Shahid drone. Yeah, I'm seeing some of the Shahid drones right now. I need a better picture. Okay, so now if you look at this particular drone here, if you look at this particular capability right here, you will see a very tiny material around here. Not this tiny material around here that looks like a dot. Most of the time, these things are being incorporated underneath the drone, right? This is what turns the drone from being an ordinary drone. It turns it to something completely dangerous and different. And it makes it very impossible sometimes to jam these drones and to bring it down. That is why you heard that currently the Russian drones, they are now becoming very elusive to those jamming interceptors. So now if you look at this drone too in this slide, if you look here, you can see some things that look like ships, right? Those are those materials, right? So if you look at the pattern, if you look at the infrared pattern mid-flight, it's this capabilities becomes completely different. And you know, the drones are not something you can just overlook like that, because they contain 200-kilogram explosive, making them highly destructive. So the possibility, the reason for putting those capabilities is that it gives you the opportunity to how to maneuver a lot of things. So now look at this Geran drone, the Russian Geran drone. I think this one was downed, maybe brought down by, maybe shot. If you look at those white tiny materials, right, they are there, but I'll probably get a very clear material that I can use to explain better for everyone next time. So that is what we have in this conflict. So, and Iran did not get this technology from Russia. Unfortunately, Iran developed this technology on their own. So you are this, to be honest, the Americans are fighting a very formidable they're fighting a very formidable enemy. Now let us look at the Lucas drone. They call it the Lucas drone of the Americans, right? The Lucas drone. So let's see if the Lucas drone has this particular capability that we just talked about here. So let's look at the Lucas drone. So this is a Lucas drone right here. This is a Lucas drone. This is a Lucas drone. So from what we can see, I think the Lucas drone has one of it, but I don't know if that's it at the middle. At the middle, that very small white chip at the middle. So, but on the Iranian Chai drone, you have about 4, 5, or 6 of them in one single drone. So these things are this thing, if you want to understand, is like infrared cameras. That's what it looks like. They are easy to buy, but they are not easy to produce. And that is where the problem is. Iran mass produce these things. So you are not fighting an enemy that buys everything from China. You are fighting one formidable enemy that produce everything they are using. So it makes everything extremely difficult. Now, I believe that everyone have heard what the Iranians are saying, that what they are firing, they are reproducing. So now we've gotten to a new level in this escalation. If the Iranians have truly, exhausted their old stockpile, it means that all hell is about to break loose. I promise you. This is not me propping up Iran. I don't have to. US continues to bomb them still. Israel continues to bomb them still. Israel is having success. US is having success, but those success are in sports. So you will have a complete success rate when you say that they have complete control of the Iranian sky. But do they have that? No. Because aircrafts are still being shot down. Drones are still being shot down. So you can't say you have complete air control, airspace control when those things are still being done. Now you can hear one of the US representatives saying something here.
Well, we just had an important series of votes on the House floor. As you know, the War Powers Resolution failed. That is the right result. We are not at war. We have no intention of being at war. The President and the Department of Defense have made this very clear. The Department of War has made it very clear. This is a limited operation. It's an operation that's limited in its scope and duration.
So what they are saying now is that this is a limited operation, that they don't want to have a war, that this war is not going to be a long war, that is limited in duration and all of that. But what if the war is not going to be a limited operation? The plan was that it was going to be a limited operation. They got there, like I would tell anybody, they thought it was going to be easy, right? They got there, and that is what makes That's what is making the whole situation dangerous now. Because now they found out that Iran is very, very dangerous. So now there is a recalibration of mission objective. That, look, we must stop these guys right now. Because if there is a ceasefire right now, Iran will no longer plan for Israel alone. Iran will now plan for everybody. All the allies, Iran will plan for everybody straight away. So the next time the lock ons, we will discover that, something devastating is going to happen. And if anybody thinks Iran would not develop a nuclear weapon from now, you have to think again. So what the US representative are saying currently is that they are scared of the mass production of Iran. According to Marco Rubio, he said they are outproducing all their allies in the Persian Gulf. But I don't think that statement is correct. I think they are outproducing even the Europeans. Add the Europeans to the Persian states, had Turkey, around that region. I think the only state that I can categorically say is outproducing Iran when it comes to missile capabilities right now. I'll probably say Russia. Offensive missile, I'll probably say China, Russia, United States. I think that's all. I think that is all. I think nobody else is doing. Nobody else is touching Iran. China, Russia, US. That's it. But when it comes to defense capability, I think Russia is number one. Then followed by China. Then followed by the US. That is it. That's the ladder. That is the ladder currently. India has exo-atmospheric interceptors. They have endo-atmospheric interceptors, but they are producing in a very, low capacity because Israel is not using some mechanized, people that if you want to mass produce, you have to now incorporate artificial intelligence. You have to incorporate high-level technology. Iran is not producing based on humans. Iran is not employing human labor. Iran is using machines. China is using machines. So they can turn out. Iran has one of the best gas turbine engine right now in the world. They produce these things by themselves. I have realized some things about Iran recently that is putting me in shock. We did not know Iran like this. We used to hear Iran, but we did not know Iran like this. I think the US have always known the capabilities of Iran. I think Israel have always known this, right? If you look at the other Persian Gulf states, apart from Turkey, I think the rest are useless. Let's be honest with ourselves. Azerbaijan, we are currently hearing that Azerbaijan is doing this, is doing that, Azerbaijan is never ever going to come close to Iran. Azerbaijan, I don't think they have a chance. I don't think they stand any type of chance. Azerbaijan, the fight in cooperation with, Turkey and I think Pakistan. Or something. But Pakistan knowing how bad, how bad Israel wants to destroy Iran, and Pakistan knows that the next agenda will be Turkey. You can see that they are already pointing at Turkey. Then after Turkey, they will go for Pakistan. Pakistan will be the final battle in the Middle East. And I can tell you, they can swarm Pakistan with preemptive decapitation strike, and it will be nuclear because they know that Pakistan is nuclear. The first thing they do is to send in CIA agents to look for the, to probably look for the key points that they have to strike. And once they can take that out, I'm telling you, they can just activate the NATO assets, and that will be done. That will be Delta Hotel for Pakistan, and everything is over. They can easily take out Pakistan very, very quickly. Because now let's come to think of it. Apart from the nukes that Pakistan have, which are probably old, Pakistan don't really have hypersonic weapons capability. which can actually defeat preparation. The hypersonic, you see the hypersonic missile coming. If you have a long-range radar system, which is about 5,500 kilometers and all of that, but you can't prepare for that speed. It's like you see a punch coming, but this punch is so fast that before your brain responds, it will hit you. You can only prepare for a slow punch that probably you've already anticipated. So defense is being calculated based on some level of calibration that is perceptible. Hypersonic missiles leave you with imperceptible calculation. You cannot do it. So that is why I think we are now getting to a stage in this war where the US and Israel needs to intensify. Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Nelson. Thank you for the donation. I think US and Israel needs to now intensify their air campaign if they want to stand a chance, because now these are hypersonic ballistic capabilities that are going at you. Now, the best chance for you to stop a ballistic capability is during the takeoff stage. Yeah, because that is where the rocket engine is going to power the movement, and you can all see how slow it is going to get down. It's going to start like the launch stage, but when it gets to the ballistic goes in a ballistic trajectory, it goes like this and it comes down. So when it gets mid-flight, and most of the cases, this is where it starts manipulating and doing a lot of maneuverability. When it gets to mid-flight to the terminal stage, there is little to what you can do. So I was watching this professor from MIT yesterday, who is a missile expert, right? So I discovered that most of the Israeli interceptions are not successful. How? You record successful intercepts if your interceptor kinetic, most of the interceptors are kinetic, right? They don't explode. They use their kinetic force to hit the warhead. That is what you call a successful intercept. It hits the warhead and you see this loud, this very massive blow, like boom. That is a successful intercept. Something happened in Kuwait. The Patriot system was used to intercept a cruise missile of Iran, right? What did we notice? It was not a successful interception. Now, a successful interception, you will see that the trajectory of every air defense system, boom, it stands, it goes, and it turns like this. There is a calculation of the point of impact, right? But these recent cruise missiles, these recent interceptors now, they are behaving differently. So it's supposed to, it's the flight trajectory is supposed to come like this. So they go like this. If you look at the Israeli interceptors, right, they go like this, and it's supposed to hit like this, right? If it hits here, you have to get the calculation correctly. If it hits here, see, the trouble in this thing is, if your intercept is not, it takes like 3 interceptors here. And I would explain that to you. If your intercept is not accurate, let's say you hit the part of the ballistic missile, right, which can be very, very massive, you will see that the light, the rocket's flash that you are seeing, the flare will go off. Now that's where the trouble is. The flare goes off, your interceptor is done, maybe the fuel that is projecting the interceptor has been used up, the interceptor will go out. Now, that payload is coming down. That was what happened in Kuwait. It's still as destructive as the main payload, but the difference is the main payload is coming following the force of gravity, and the head is still there. So it's going to hit with a kinetic impact that is going to cause a massive explosion. Now, depending on the weight, it can dig deep, then bring a huge impact. But what happened in Kuwait was that there was an unsuccessful intercept, and when it landed, it exploded. Boom! The cars and the people there were injured. Some of them were killed. That was what happened in Kuwait. So what we notice is that even when you see, you know that when you see those iron, when you see the Arrow 3, the David Sling, and the Iron Dome, right? When you see, the first thing is that sometimes you see this glow exo-atmospheric. That means that the Arrow 3 has been able to intercept outside, you know, the atmosphere, right? But once it enters the distance of 1,000 to 3,000 kilometers, that's the job of the David Sling. So if the Arrow 3 miss, the David Sling will fire like 3 or 4 because there is already a failed interception. The David Sling will fire multiple. If the David Sling miss, the Iron Dome will fire even much more. That is why you have sometimes, there was a video, there was about 15 interceptors coming out of the Iron Dome. Which one failed? I don't know what, he's not a doctor, he's not a professor. In the US, they are giving him so much title, right? He said, he wrote a journal on Substack. He claimed that the Iron Dome has about 86, I think 86 or 87% intercept success. Well, ladies and gentlemen, so the Iron Dome shot about 12, I think 12 or 13 interceptors, and the Iranian ballistic missile outmaneuver, like traveled through every one of them, and the impact was devastating. That means that is less than 5% intercept success. That is a bad success rate right there. So when you are pouring this level of interception out, and some of these missiles are still going through, it means that there is fire on the mountain. And remember, some of the ones that are being intercepted are not successful interception because the warhead are not being destroyed. They still drop. They still, destroy. The professor says 5%. Thank you very much. So this is what we are talking about. So Israel is dealing with a formidable enemy here. Now, here's the problem. Even these capabilities we are talking about are the whole stockpile of Iran, the ones you can see with your eyes. You are seeing it come, it's coming down and you can see it. You can monitor it. Iran is now going to be, you see the Fatah. The Fatah only leaves you with microseconds to regret your life. Do you get what I'm saying? The Fatah 2 will only leave you, saying the last prayer of one's life, I don't even think is going to be enough. But the chance for Israel here is, Israel has a long-range radar system. Once they launch from Iran, they tell their citizens to start moving into the bunkers, right? But we are now noticing something inside Israel today. This is a very very important moment in our lives, right? So this is Israel, right? So you can look at the building. So this is a bunker right here. This is a bunker right here. This is a bunker, right? So we are looking at situations where, so Israel made this video today. They want to tell the public that this is what Iran is doing to civilian buildings in Israel. But Israel cannot make an argument right now. So what Israel is trying to do is that Israel is trying to tell us that Iran is hitting civilian targets. And that is not good, right? That's what Israel is trying to say. But based on our study of what is going on in Tehran, right? They are equally striking civilian targets. So we cannot say, right? You can't play victim in this situation. In Beit Shemesh, we've discovered that bunkers are being blown out. In Beit Shemesh. So the Israeli defense minister has come out and said, we have now come to notice that Iran has missiles that can blow up our bunkers. The Israel have now admitted that. So that's a good job. I like the fact that Israel is very, very honest. The reason is because if you are not being honest with yourself, then you are digging your own grave, because the damage will be very, very devastating. So this is an Israeli citizen. right? This is an Israeli citizen. This is an Israeli citizen. Oh God, I want you to see this. So this is dust, right? This Israeli citizen is inside it. Look at her. Look at her leg. So what happened is that I think a building got blown up. And you know, she's even lucky, you know. Yeah, I still report on Africa and the AES. We are going to do that tonight. You know, the building got blown off and you know, things like that. And she was complaining that you know, so she had injuries on her leg and all of that. And this is Israel too, working in Iran. But this particular strike you are seeing, this now let me tell you this. You see that first strike? I want you to pay attention to it. Look at this. So you can see that now I'm going to explain something to you. Every strike you see is not a decisive strike because there was no secondary explosion, and that was supposed to be a missile launcher, right? If that was a clean strike, there is going to be a secondary explosion that is supposed to be like devastating. So that means that was a decoy. So if you look at this vehicle too, supposed to be a launcher, no. But this is the main destruction. No, not this. Not this. Okay, this is no. This is a destruction here. This is a destruction here. So they had to move up. Look at it. They had to move up so that they can see the strike. So that means in that mission, they were able to strike only one launcher. But when they go back home, or probably from the command control center, they are going to tell you that they've been able to destroy a lot. Okay? Now you're going to see another thing, right? You're going to see another thing. This is a US base. This is satellite image. Look at the US base now. It has been destroyed. Look at it. Can you see it? Can you see the US base? This is the US base before the heat. Right? This is the US base after the heat. So we have a situation right now where everybody's trying to claim victim, right? But it's not going to work because the US have actually, you know, they've been able to strike Iranian kids. They've been able to, you know, everybody knows that they've struck those school kids, you know, the Minab school girls. And that means that the United States, you know, and to be honest with you, the United States claimed that strike. They claimed that strike. And I know that you are now, they told you that they control Tehran sky, right? This is Israel right now. This is Israel right now. So you can't tell me you control the Tehran sky and they are still able to fire this number of capabilities in your direction. No, you don't control nothing. You don't control nothing. Okay? According to Qatar, they said oil prices could rise to $150 within 2 weeks. I'm tired of this war already because the price of petrol in Nigeria that is not in any way involved with this war, the price of petrol is already high. Look at an Israeli building. Right? And inside this building, you can see the IDF, the Israeli IDF soldiers, right? They are clearing up the room. So according to information, this particular building was not struck decisively by the ballistic capability. This particular building you are looking at was struck by the shrapnels that came out from the Koram Shah 4. So the Koram Shah 4, actually the main missile, right, created a big crater, right? Created a big crater. Then the shrapnels that, you know, flied out of the Koram Shah 4 actually, you know, destroyed the building. Now look at Israeli children, right? Israeli kids, they are running. They are running from the early warning is already giving them sign, so they are all running into bunkers. So now the problem is this, right? The problem is this. You know, these are kids. They're not supposed to live like this, right? I pity those kids. But unfortunately, their government cannot live without war. You know, that is what I'm beginning to think, that their government cannot live. I don't know why, but I think Israel cannot live without war. Now, let's look at the situation in Tehran clearly. Is Tehran really, really so bad? Look at this CNN journalist speaking from inside Tehran.
Driving for several hours. There's a couple of things that we've noticed. Number one is that, first of all the shops are open. All the shops are really well stocked, even with fresh things like, for instance, fruits and vegetables. Coffee, obviously, also available as well. And then also the gas stations. There's no long lines as gas stations. Fuel seems readily available, and just don't see any sort of...
So this is the identity of people that don't care. Okay, because this is war. Everybody is supposed to be dodging, right? Everybody is supposed to be dodging and ducking. Everybody is supposed to be somewhere hiding right now. But you know, we have a situation where everything is changing completely, and the Israeli deputy foreign minister is now calling on Australia to join the war. Look at him.
So my message to Australia is to wake up.
Israel's Deputy Foreign Minister telling 7 News it's time for Australia to join the war.
I would expect Australia, with its long history of defending humanity and freedom throughout many wars throughout our history, I would expect them to actually join forces as well.
The Israeli government minister also had a message for Australians worried about the impact on fuel and gas prices, trade, travel and our security, insisting controversially that the war would be worth it in the long run.
They need to understand what kind of
You know, like, this is so funny. Do you know why it's so funny? It's so funny because the United States, the greatest military on the planet, is already involved in this war. Why do you need Australia? Why do they need Spain? Now we know that Canada, the 52nd state of America, right? They are now, because if they like it or not, they are going to be the 52nd state of America. They are now saying that they want to join the war. Maybe they want to please their daddy, right? But it's not going to change anything. You know, it's not going to change anything. Now, look at the situation.
Just arrived at an impact site where an Iranian missile hit earlier today, and you can see a massive crater right there behind me. And rescue workers still searching for people possibly missing under the rubble, and you can get an idea of the...
So now what did they do? What those people did is that they censored information to a point where they can no longer censor information anymore. They cannot do it anymore. So right now, we now have a situation where they were praying for Donald Trump in the White House yesterday. I know a lot of people have seen that video where, you know, people were even speaking in tongue. Now, let me explain what happened in the White House to you categorically so that you can understand. To the US, destroying Ayatollah Said Ali Khamenei was supposed to be the decapitation strike that ends everything. Now, if the US was a smart entity, right? Ayatollah Khamenei should have been the last decisive strike. It should not be the first. You destroy everything around him and you make him your last shot. Because being a leader that loves his people, he would not want to escalate to the point where his people will suffer so much damage. But you took him out first. A man that is 86 and is already sick. He has cancer. You martyred him. Now you open a kind of chaos. Now the people are ready to go to the kitchen sink with you. You've already destroyed the regime change operation. They are talking about regime change. Everything is going on in Iran. You can see that the gas station is open. No, like there's no panic. People are getting injured. But let me tell you something. These are people that desire to die on their feet rather than crawl and beg on their knees. That is the identity of the Iranians that have. Look, the psychology of those people is different. And that is why the United States is against that theocracy. I was listening to one mainstream video today where the reporter was saying, the women are not free in Iran. A lot of people are not free. Their heirs are always covered. They need to be free. They need to be like they need to live like our women in the state. I'm sorry to the women that are in the state, right? What this American reporter is saying that they need these women to start wearing G-string and start moving all about the streets wearing no. Women are not going to get the women in Iran. They are not going to get violated like that. And let me tell you the bigger game. Let me give you the bigger plot here. What does people try to do? First of all, is to target the women in any community. That is what they do first. They target the women in any community. Because most of the time, the women control what happens around when it comes to socialization and a lot of things, right? Then the second thing, they target people with drugs. It happened in China, the Opium War, apart from the Opium War in China, in Russia before Vladimir Putin came, Russia was a dangerous environment for anybody, right? So they target the women, they flood, I'm telling you, if this regime falls in Iran, Iran will be worse than Mexico. Iran will be worse than Mexico. I'm telling you. So the only lifeline Iran has right now is they are still being able to keep their morality. Russia under Vladimir Putin is a better state, like 100 times better than what it was during, the time of Boris Yeltsin. Right? Look at how Russia was during Boris Yeltsin time. It wasn't safe. Like, okay, look at Ukraine currently. Their proxy state. Look at Ukraine currently. Look at how they recruit soldiers in Ukraine. Look at how people use, things in Ukraine, substance in Ukraine, right? A lot is going on in Ukraine now that is actually very devastating. Thank you so much for the donation, right? A lot is going on in Ukraine. So when these people infiltrate your community, they destroy everything you have. They exchange your civilization for a very bad export. See, these people export civilization. The way they export weapons, they export a very bad civilization. And that civilization turns you into a puppet or a vassal state. So that's what they want to do now. They want to, the existence of Iran is a threat to them. So when you hear all these things like, we want you to be free, we want their women to open their hair and all of that, that is not the target. No, the target is to destroy every fundamental view, okay, of Iran. But Iran is an empire. Don't forget. Iran is the great Persian Empire. You cannot destroy a whole civilization. So when this type of clash happens, one civilization will give way for, there is going to be an almost complete destruction of a whole civilization for another civilization to prevail. So what we have now is that if you want to launch even a nuclear weapon, the Iranians, right, at this point, what I'm looking at, if you are launching conventional warhead, they will probably run into the Zagros mountain and they will come out and they will strike you again. Now, let me tell you why Iran is controlling the conflict. Let me just explain to a lot of people, right? Why I think I might be wrong, right? The reason why Iran is controlling this conflict, okay, is because Iran is striking radar system, expensive radar system. They are striking missile stockpile. They are striking US personnel right inside where they are hiding. US is also deleting them. US is striking the Iranian Navy. They are doing a lot of damage. You can see the torpedo, right? From the submarine to that, Iranian naval frigate. So it's back and forth. But there's a difference. Iran is playing the strategy of a long-term war. Iran is dictating the tempo because Iran is continuously picking out targets till this day. Iran is not just striking anyhow. During the 12-day war, we realized something, that some of the Israeli IDF command control center are under civilian settlements. You are talking about hospitals. That's how they do it. So when you try to hit those buildings, right, you have to destroy civilian buildings. So they want to blackmail. It's not a big space. So that's what they do. Israel and Iran has almost the same elusive characteristic. They know how to use underground cities. Israel has a lot of buildings under the ground. 2, they have so many every building in Israel almost have a bunker. Yeah. But you are not dealing with an adversary that has almost the same identity with you, that has almost the same will with you. So what we are saying now is, who will outwill who? Who will outfight who? Who will outmaneuver who? The space of Tehran is fiercely contested. And what do we have in Kuwait today? We have another US F-15 fighter jet taking a serious hit from a Kuwait pilot. Now I'm beginning to ask a question. I think it's time for the US Air Force to look into the case of that Kuwait, what was his name? That Kuwait pilot. I think they need to do something about him. Why? I don't know. The guy is hitting. The guy can no longer deny that he is not intentionally taking out the US fighter jets. Why do I think that's what he is doing? There was a particular strike on this US F-15 today, and it was not a long-range strike. No, it was so close to him. I'm looking for the footage. It was so close to him. So you cannot deny that it was a mistake. So the question is, what is his plan? What is his plan? Now we have another dangerous situation. Okay, this is the Kuwaiti fighter. He has already hit. You will see the fighter jet of the Kuwait. Can you see the fighter jet? The Kuwait fighter jet. You can see it behind. I want you to look at the distance. I want to show you this combat footage, right? Oh. So it was so close to him. Like, he hit the F-15 and he came out immediately behind him. So that is to say, now, if I am in the position of US, I'm going to start asking a question. Number one, I'm going to tell them to get me that pilot. If Kuwait is supposed to be an ally state, right? Why will this Kuwait alone has knocked down, if I'm not mistaken, about 3 fighter jets now? You would not drop 3 by mistake. Don't tell me it's by mistake. This is how the guy's eyes, his eyeball are looking into each other like this. I know, I understand. I know this guy has diploplegia, but at the same time, this guy is trying to be a superstar. And I think they should teach him a very bad lesson. And another thing is, this guy might be a Shia. This guy might be a Shia. So, but unfortunately, that is another US fighter jet downed again. Now, why do I think this is happening? I think the Kuwait pilots, they are not well trained. They are scared. So when they see anything is about to go down, the Kuwait fighters, the pilots, they lack that. Look, this is a dangerous time. Actually, I understand. And you know, the way I think they work is once they see anything, man. So remember when the US pilots fell inside Kuwait, and the Kuwait local immediately, without identifying, he has already, he was about to start beating up on him, and they were now like, America, 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 okay, you are safe, you are safe. They were about to beat the bricks out of him instantly. So what do we have right now, right? CBS News reports that American MQ-9 Reaper drones have been shot down, according to CBS News. 3 American MQ-9 Reaper drones. So Iran has now said that upcoming attack on the US and Israel will be more intense and widespread. That's what they are saying right now. Italian Prime Minister Giorgio Meloni refused to give direct support to the US. Now look at that information very, very well. They said because this is the mainstream media of the West giving this information. So that's why we have to be very, very careful, right? He said Italian Prime Minister Giorgio Meloni refuses to give direct support. So are they giving indirect support to the United States and Israel? She said, quote, "We are not at war. We don't want war." Because there is something everybody don't know now. Everybody don't know if Iran has long-range strike capability. We know that they have intermediate and short range, but nobody knows if they have long range. And one thing I have seen, the most sovereign leader in the entire Europe is Giorgia Meloni. She look, that woman is supposed to be, to me, I think she's supposed to be the European Union leader. Ursula von der Leyen, Kaya Kallas, man, those are some bunch of disgraceful entities, right? I think from what we can see, even against all odds, Giorgia Meloni does not send anybody. She will say what she has to say and she will leave. And unfortunately, if you look at the conditions of this conflict, yeah, we can say that she's right, to say these things. But can we trust this particular information coming from Giorgia Meloni? So again, we'll go back to what she said, that she refuses to directly support the conflict. So are they indirectly supporting the conflict? Remember that France actually promised, Emmanuel Macron promised. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Emmanuel Macron made a promise that he does not support the war. He's against humanitarian. But Emmanuel Macron has deployed their aircraft carrier, has deployed their fighter, the Rafale assault fighter jet, and all of that, right? Now, let me tell you another thing. A lot of people are saying F-15s, right? And a lot of people have been asking questions that why is the US deploying F-16s, F-15, and they have F-35? I want to remind you, do you know that several F-35 were shot down during the 12-day war? And it affected the US F-35 market to the point that Algeria was trying to buy F-35 before. But there were some things that happened. Algeria now said they wanted the Russian Su-57, right? So now, if they deploy the F-35, you can see that, look, let me tell you now, there are some things in combat, right, that we cannot underestimate. We are overlooking. See, there are some things that they are completely disgraceful. We are overlooking now because it's F-15. If you want to pour a lot of fire on your enemy, you need F-15, right? It's just like you are talking about the Russian S-24 frog, Su-24, frog foot, right? But if Iran managed to shoot down one F-35, the world, the internet will not rest for a whole week. Man, they dropped. So they don't want this to happen because the US is still trying to convince a lot of people to buy the F-35. Now the problem, another problem with buying the F-35 is that the F-35 is this fighter jet that the US can control you, even if they sell you the export variant. They have this, you still have to take, like, it's very, very bad. I won't advise any African country to buy any US fighter jet or aircraft or anything. They shouldn't do it. They should never ever do it. Because they will keep telling you, we don't want to see this fighter jet here after you've paid. So now, according to the information we are receiving now, Iran says its forces are ready to fight with a calculated management and are prepared for a long-term war. Are they ready to fight a long-term war? Yes. Yes. And I think when you enter the real theater of war, I'm talking about on the line of contact, you have to start looking at the attrition rates. When you look at the attrition rate of Iran, now when you bomb civilians and you pile up number of casualties, that is not effective. See, that's not efficient. That is not effective KIA. Efficient and effective KIA, because you have to be efficient before you are effective, right? You can't be deleting some bunch of carpenters and be telling the public you are, because these are the battles. It is the conglomeration of the battles that will lead to the outcome of the war. You win a battle doesn't mean you've won the war. You can't be bombing civilians and be convincing the public that you are successful. You can see that some American soldiers, their bodies are, they are returning their bodies back home in body bag. Now, let me give you the calculation. Everybody knows something. In any country in this world, it's not only America. If you kill 50, they will probably say you killed 15. As long as it sounds similar. My country own is worse. If you kill 300, they will probably say it's 30. So that's what is good. That's what happens. They will probably tell you that, oh, the number is, yeah. So now, what we do have is that at the end of the day, when all is being said and done, when the main battle is being fought, the question people will have to ask America is that, what is your attrition rate? Your attrition rate is the number of active, experienced, combat-tested personnel that you have, that you are losing. And what is the statistics, right, of you replacing those personnel capability, putting them through training, and putting them in combat such a way that the people that you are losing, you are able to replace them perfectly. And whatever US deployment they are going to be sending to the Persian Gulf, because I'm now hearing about boots on the ground. You can see that Abbas Araghchi said something. He said, we are waiting for them. Do you know why? American boots in Iran, number one, where would they drop them? What positions are they going to take? Iran will be so happy to have America boots on the ground. Do you know why? It will be the fastest way to end the war. The fastest way to end the war. It will be far worse than Afghanistan. Let me explain something to you. Iran says that 5 agents linked to US have been arrested for gathering intelligence on sites and mosques in Tehran. So what they're trying to do now is, like I said, I told you all something yesterday and the voice. I said, the US no longer have any objective. Like, they don't have objective targets. Like, okay, this is what we are destroying. This is what I said they are bombing civilians. That is why they are not trying to to recruit CIA assets inside Iran. Now, communication is down in Iran. Network is down. So they cannot mass, conscript assets, okay? So Iran says that 5 agents have been captured. Now, those 5 agents will give intel. How did they communicate with them? So this whole plan of the US have failed once again. What did they say? They said they are gathering intel. So America no longer have accurate intel on their mission. Nothing. They are not operationally doing anything significant. They are just bombing civilian apartments. We hear that they are carpet bombing. Carpet bombing what? That's the billion-dollar question. You can see on the first day they bombed Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. That was what happened during the 12-day war. After taking out all those generals, what else? What happened? Bombs started flying. And when they got exhausted, they called for negotiation. That is what it's looking like again. But because they don't want to give up so easily, they now want to recruit assets on the ground that is going to start helping them to probably talk to locals, to give them some active locations that they can, okay, how can we get here? How can we get here? And those ones pick locations, send the coordinates to them, and, they come in and they can start telling you that we're having much success. The mission objective is over. It's over. Every important Iranian official that they might be trying to bomb, they don't even know where they are. They don't. I can promise you that if the Israelis can sight Abbas Araghchi, they are going to take him out. To them, destroying this leadership personnel is a way of destroying the morale of the Iranians. But unfortunately, that is not going to happen. So now, because the black flag has been raised, now another thing, Israel is now stopping the Muslims from visiting Al-Aqsa, all right, in Jerusalem, which is one of the most holy ground according to them and all of that. I'm not a religious person, actually. So, regime change failed after eating Ayatollah Khamenei. And they declared jihad. Do you know what jihad means? Jihad means that Iran would not take a negotiated settlement until they exact a revenge that is equal to the capacity of Ayatollah Khamenei. That is what jihad means. Until they exact a revenge. Now, morally, this war is no longer acceptable and justified by the United States. It's no longer justified. Now, what did they do? We are now getting information that US troops were told the Iran war is for the return of Jesus Christ. I know a lot of you have seen the video on our Telegram channel. We posted it yesterday, right? The personnel are even angry because some of these personnel are atheists. Some of them are not Christians. They are now telling them that the reason why they are going to die in Iran is because this war is going to be how they are going to build the 3rd temple. They are talking about the 3rd temple, and Armageddon is going to happen, and Jesus Christ is going to return and is going to take away his chosen people. Now, this is where I come in. Jesus is for me now, based on my own perspective, if this is their objective, Iran now needs to save the world. If what they are saying now is that Armageddon will happen and Jesus Christ will return, right? Iran now needs to save the world. So this war now, Iran is the representative of the free world. So if Iran ends up landing a knockout blow, you might have a situation where the whole world is celebrating. Because how can you be so paranoid to the point where you say Armageddon is about to happen? And probably these people are just lying. Elon Musk could be ready to ship a lot of people out of space, right? So these people are lying to themselves right? They want to just give the soldiers, because I think the morale of the soldier is somehow down. So they want to give them a reason to continue to fight and die. And they want to give them a reason to continue to, because everybody is saying US cannot fight a protracted conflict. So they want to give the soldiers a reason to fight a protracted war. So now they are saying they are fighting for Jesus. The videos is on our Telegram channel. And that only means one thing. Donald Trump has seen that from a religious standpoint, he has lost. So now he's trying to turn it into a religious war. Oga, you have failed. So now, according to the information, they said Iranians are towering a downed Israeli Aeron TP drone shot down by the air defense system in Lorestan. So that's another thing. They've shot down another Israeli drone. Now, this Aeron drone is different from the Hermes drone. They continue to shoot down Hermes drone. Now, I'm going to tell you what I think about this now. Israeli media has published the devastating image of Beit Shemesh. It's a place in Israel that has been heavily bombarded by the Iranian ballistic missile. Now, when you look at this number of drones that have been destroyed, and you look at the number of, fighter jets that have been dropped, and you look at the number of American, F-15s that have been taken down, I'll tell you one thing at this point. In the midst of all this entire conflict, the only time we've seen a battle, and it was not an actual battle, the only time, because the Yak 130 was looking for drones, right? And the Israeli F-35 came from an angle that was on the, I don't know why the Iranian fighter could not see, and it was blown out. That was not a fight. A fight is, this personnel knows that this personnel is coming for me. Now everybody starts to maneuver and they try to use all the capabilities of the fighter jets. And probably this is where China will embarrass almost anybody. Because once they incorporate, that was what decided the fight between India and Pakistan. The AWAC gave the Pakistani fighters a longer range. So, the Indians were fighting with the normal radar of the fighter, the aircraft they were using. So before the Indian fighters were able to see the Pakistani fighters, right? The Pakistani fighters have taken them out. Now, how was it possible for this calculus to happen? That's why I said the US will suffer in this war, because China is helping Iran to pick out this target. You are dealing with some of the most intelligent people in the world. Now, let me explain myself properly. The fighter jet radius, right? The radius of, coverage for the radars, right? It's not a long radius, right? I think it's about 500 kilometers or something. I don't know if it's even that. I don't even know if it's that long. Okay. And the Pakistani fighters were deploying the Chinese jets. And the Chinese gave them the original version of the PLA missile, which has a very long range of, I think about 1,500 kilometers. So because of the AWAC system and the PLA missile that has a long range, a longer range, right? The Indian fighters did not know where the missiles were coming from. But the Pakistani fighters could not see them from their aircraft, but they were getting coordinates from the early warning aircraft. So when you see, China understands how to incorporate different systems together to give you an effective result. So the reason what we are seeing in the Persian Gulf now is that China is playing chess, right? China is playing chess. When you talk about the command control of Iran, I think the command control of Iran right now is China. China sees everything. And when you talk about the exports, the military variant of the Chinese Baidu satellite system, according to information, they said it can read this thing. It can. They said the military variant can read what you are holding. I think at this point, there will be no place for the Armageddon squad to hide. So I'm no longer going to call them the Epstein class right now. This name is going to change. It's no longer the coalition of the retarded versus the coalition of the Epstein coalition. Now is the coalition of the Armageddon. See, I'm telling you, at this point, before I was neutral, man, but now there is a level of stupidity that we are seeing right now. If you are talking about Armageddon, that means you want to go nuclear. That means you are gradually weighing your nuclear option. That means you are panicking. You are telling soldiers that why they are going out. How can you be so senseless that you now start telling soldiers that this fight is for Jesus? A land grabbing fight. They are already grabbing the land of Lebanon right now. They've already grabbed the entire southern Lebanon. And you are telling those soldiers that cannot think for themselves. I know soldiers obey order, but you are telling them that they are going out to fight for the return of Jesus. So the mental aspect to that instruction is, if you die outside, if you die for Netanyahu, whose children are probably in the US, if you die for Netanyahu, right, you've died for Jesus. The same Jesus that they beat the nonsense out of. Let me tell you one very little joke before I go. If Jesus come back today in the form of a man, right? Donald Trump is going to declare him wanted. Don't let anybody deceive you that this fight is for Jesus. If Jesus was to come back in form of a man, right, they are probably going to strap him to a ballistic missile and they will launch him into Iran. Families, at this point, I want to greet you. I want to say goodbye to everyone. We're going to come back at night and we're going to continue our live stream based on the information we have. Thank you and God bless you.